Order. 5:31. We'll take a look at the minutes from. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from January 5th? So. Herb. Al. Discussion?
I think line 46. Paul says that since only 11,000 was spent in 2022 on overtime, that 25,000 could be reduced. Nate wants to keep the 25,000 because historically winters are not this mild and this line item has been overspent. Kind of insinuates it's overspent, was overspent in 2022, we should say.
Oh, overspent in the past.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
line 67, 6,500 needs a comma.
60 what?
65, line 57, heating fuel of 6,500, it should 6,500, no comma between the six.
Okay.
I mean, not a big deal, but.
Okay.
Normal convention actually is if it's only 4 digits, you don't use a comma. It's fine. So I think that's pretty optional because otherwise you'll have to change it anywhere else. Like
Okay.
6,000.
Yeah, I
Why
saw
not?
that on 6,000 on line 81.
Yeah,
It's normal just to leave that.
Yeah, I can change.
It's only 4.
I have to take off draft and the numbers in.
I think maybe we should have some more discussion about that.
Leave it alone. I'll move the question.
I changed mine on everyone that I'm doing it. I don't know what shows up. But you're right, normal convention is to have that, so
If I get a statement with 4 digits as a comma.
mine too. I normally, like, as I said, that's why we should discuss this. Just kidding.
I thought I moved the question. I'm leaving it alone.
All right,
I can read it just fine with the.
there we go.
Oh, I wrote it 6.
Okay, any further discussion on the minutes from January 5th? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the amended minutes from January 5th, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
One abstention. Thank you. Okay, so in my email, you saw that we changed a couple of things because they're not, and I didn't notice it, but it should have, there's not even a number down in there for warrant articles so far. So you said they're going to meet on that on the 17th, you guys are, and 24th. We'll plan on the 24th.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. All right, fine. Yeah, and I'm sorry, I've made a couple mistakes. Maybe just with this, with the scheduling, nothing big, I don't think, but I go for the drive, and the one I had in the drive was the draft. This was given to us as paper, and so I didn't see it. So there's some differences in here. But again, there's nothing big. I think the only thing I didn't have tonight was warrant articles. Nope, that got moved. And then, and from a suggestion, I moved legal and insurance. This wasn't an error. I moved legal and insurance up to tonight. And because they're pretty quick.
Yeah.
And you put cemetery on the 12th.
Yes.
I was just dying to do the same.
Did you see my note? Can we update the agenda to the Google Drive and also post the minutes from the 3rd to the Google Drive?
Yes, I did that.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't. do
I
it
didn't check
yesterday.
after I
did
asked
it
you.
this morning,
Yeah.
But yes,
Okay.
for myself, I want to have it up.
Yeah, I sent it to him and then he does.
Okay,
Right.
awesome.
Yep.
Awesome.
Okay, then, first one on the docket tonight is town hall 7.
What's that?
Okay. Fran, would you like to
I'm here,
walk
all
us through
right.
this?
So the first line item, we reduced is for the, security system, the security camera and the, that you see throughout town hall and also downstairs. That's a cost that we split with the PD, for the building. We used to have a contract, where that required annual maintenance, but we no longer have that. That, I guess, happened before my time. But that $5,000 was just kind of as a placeholder if there were any upgrades or if the camera went down or any improvements or any maintenance needed to be done to them. So I cut that in half because we hadn't used it to its full extent. You know, we've had a couple $100 bills here or there. If we were to have to buy a camera, it would probably be a couple $1,000s. So that's why I wanted to keep a little bit of a buffer in there, but we definitely didn't need the total 5,000. So I cut that in half. Next line, the $23,000 for electricity. I did go through the expenditure report again, and I think we can keep that flat. We still got about $5,000 left in that line item for and change, I believe. So I think we can keep that at the 21,000. I think we were anticipating the last couple bills being higher than they were, so I think we can bring that down a little bit to keep it flat.
Keep that to the 20.
Keep that,
21.
yeah, bring it down to 21. Propane and heating fuel, that is based on what we are spending, so I bumped it up to the 6,000. If you look at the expenditure report. Yeah, we're at 5,000 and change, so we kept it a little bit higher. Materials and supplies, I bumped that up slightly based on expenditures. We're right at that 4,800, we're actually closer to 49, but I feel like we can make it work with the 48. And then you go down to building and property maintenance. Most of those stay flat. You do see a small bump in general maintenance. We have some in-house items that we'd like to take care of this year. We need to order some ceiling tiles. We've had some water damage on the ceiling tiles. If we look around, we can see some stains. We want to order some of those and just some general maintenance stuff. Our annual fire alarm and inspection, that's the new contracted rate for the gentleman to come and test all of our fire alarm systems. And then everything else stayed the same.
Fran, can I ask a question?
Sure.
So when I look at the general government buildings underneath the building and property maintenance. So you've got $7,000 left thereabouts in this year.
Mhm.
Is there any reason why that money could have been spent like in the last month to do some of these items that maybe were in this year, or is it are the books still open? I must say, might be able to do some of that.
So Jonah's been out sick for the last 2 days, so I haven't gotten an updated expenditure report. One of my questions was, so the AC units that we're replacing one at a time every year, we did put a second one on order because we had enough money from the following year for the installation. So I don't know if that is included in the expenditure report yet. So that was a question I had for Jonah, so I can follow up with you on that, because I do know we received delivery of it in 23, but I don't know if we received the invoice and then paid for it.
Yeah,
I mean, in 22.
I was looking at that, the alarm panel and the fire extinguishers and things like that. I mean, if you had stuff that you could buy this year, certainly. I would think be better to buy.
Yeah,
this year.
those
If you
units,
still had those, if you still had that 7,000.
if we still had the 7,000, that's what I said. I need that answer from John, because those AC units themselves are, you know.
Yeah.
They run
They'll
around,
eat it.
so, yeah, so it'll eat the whole thing.
What are you all listed fire dialers for the alarm panel? Is it a service? Is that to tie the panel in?
Dialer, yeah.
I believe it is to,
It's the dialer, I think it dials out to help tell them that the alarm company that they have,
So that's like an annual service, basically.
yeah,
I would think so.
I think so, correct, yes, with central alarms, so I think it's the vendor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, the closed circuit TV stuff. Years ago, we have it at the Nordic, I have it at the Lynx. Everybody bought these expensive closed circuit video things. Now you can buy a secure web-based system for a few $100.
Okay.
When we go to upgrade that, has anybody looked into, instead of spending down, those things, the cameras cost you hundreds. And the, what you call that thing, the recorder there, cost several $1,000s. And
Yeah.
now you can get the whole setup for less than $1,000. 15 cameras.
Sure.
So when we,
When it's time to-
if big stuff breaks, maybe we want to keep in mind that we don't want to replace it bit by bit with expensive stuff that you can get for almost nothing.
No, absolutely. I mean, I haven't looked at all into replacing these. They seem to be functioning the way they should, so it hasn't been kind of on our radar, but I think in the future, if things start failing, it's gonna be a different solution.
But there's a difference in the type of cameras you can get to,
Oh, I'm sure.
and the resolution of them and how much it costs.
Oh,
to have
I mean,
those.
technology
Sure.
changes, yeah.
How old are these cameras? They're not that old.
Oh, what's on the outside? They replaced those just a little while.
Yeah.
ago, didn't
I don't know.
I don't know the age of
they?
them. I know the one in the lobbyway is relatively, it's not too old, the Globe,
Right,
it's not too old.
Yeah, they were all, those were all installed when we did the building, but the ones, I think the ones on the outside were updated, and that one globe one, I think those were updated. I don't think it was too long ago, I think those days, right, I think maybe 5 years, 4 years,
I think it's when I was, I've been on the budget committee, they were updated.
Okay.
yeah.
I'm just saying, there's gonna be a moment when it's just ridiculously more expensive to maintain this.
Sure,
system.
makes sense, yeah.
I mean, if we could buy some of that stuff in this year, that we could just budget almost be same as last year.
Sure, I hope to have an updated expenditure report for you for Thursday. Like I said, John has been sick and I know she worked from home today doing the AP and the payroll, so I should have updated by Thursday. And that's town hall.
Did the carpet and floor tiles get done?
I don't know if you've gone out this back entrance yet. All the flooring is in that hallway. They're coming this weekend to do the floor. It looks great.
Nice cardboard boxes.
Rose, they didn't approve that, so.
To Steve, is that his name?
Steve Martin,
Yes, Steve Martin.
Yeah.
He's coming this weekend to do the floors.
And-
They wanted to come during off hours and they also didn't want to rip up this whole room in the middle of kind of our budget committee session. So they're gonna start
Carpet
carpet in this room and then floor
everywhere else.
everywhere else, correct. And the flooring will be done this weekend. So.
Amy will be happy.
Yeah.
Is he doing the carpet this weekend or just?
I think he's starting with the floor. He said the carpet won't take him very long. It'll take him, half day and maybe a little bit more. So he said it's easier for him to do it when no one's here, the flooring, the block, whatever kind of vinyl flooring.
I just want to make that clear in case you come in Thursday night.
It's not, no, this is
Sit here.
I don't anticipate
That's
the
right.
carpet being done as well.
Okay, any other questions? Discussion on town hall? Okay, legal? Four. Number four? Number four. What is that?
So you're gonna see in the legal, we pretty much cut the budget in half. When I first came on board, last December, the town was involved in 6 ongoing lawsuits. We are now down to 2. With hopes to not add any more. So we reduced the budgets, pretty much all of them by 50%. We do still have 2 outstanding that are supposed to go to trial next summer. So we wanted to keep a little bit of a buffer just in case, we are in a week-long trial for both of them.
Is West Street one of those?
Correct. West Street and the Wood,
What's,
Janine Wood case is still
so
on.
West Street's not finished yet then?
West Street's not, no, West Street is supposed to go to trial. Like I said, they're both supposed to go to trial early next summer. But overall, we've reduced our dependence on our current town council, we're utilizing NHMA a lot more. Department heads are no longer allowed or authorized to reach out to the attorneys alone. They have to filter through me. So I think that's kind of reduced the amount of influx we've had.
So when you say go through you, do you mean they have to ask permission or you ask a question on their behalf?
Most of the time, they just ask permission. They say, does this seem reasonable to reach out to Jason? And I say, yes. A lot of the stuff, like for the planning stuff, it's easier if it comes directly from Carol because she's the one with the information rather than being filtered through me. But for the most part, they all get authorization before they start sending emails to attorneys. So I think that's the trend we want to keep going.
Yes.
So we only spent 75,000, about 76,000 this year.
Yes.
And you want 111.
We didn't go to court for any of the lawsuits that were extinguished this past year. Most likely the last two remaining will go to trial, which will be multi-day trials, which is gonna
You got a lot.
eat a lot.
All right.
Anything further on legal? Nope. Okay, then, insurance.
None.
So our insurance provider is Primex. They insure many of the municipalities throughout the state of New Hampshire, if not the majority of them, I think the majority of them. I know the town in the past has used a independent or a different vendor for their insurance purposes. I don't think that fared very well for the town. I think Primex is where we want to go. We did sign into an agreement with Primex this year that caps our increase over the next 3 years at that 7%. So that's why you see it this year at their maximum 7%. But historically, I looked back at what our increases were a few years before, and they hovered around 9 and 12. So the 7% is a better deal for the town of Lincoln. But obviously, with the increase in claims and the increase in costs associated with those claims, we had a little bit of a jump.
So we only expended 166,000. If you go by the 7% number, it wouldn't be the 190, it would be. If that's a current number.
Sure, so Primex does a not to exceed number because they're on a fiscal year versus a calendar year. So they gave us a January quote of a number that would not exceed. So this 190,810 is the not to exceed.
That's a lot, so
Correct.
you're gonna have to pay them the difference between. Well, for this year,
Potentially, they give us an estimated bill in January, and then because they're on the June or the July through June fiscal year, we'll know better in the summer billing.
I haven't
But
given you a sample.
correct, they give us a estimated and then they give us the final in the summertime.
so the calculations that you do on the bottom. Says total municipal portion is 190,810. But
Correct.
on calculation, so based on 2021 is 194,624. And in years past, when I went back and looked at how the calculations were run. The total municipal portion was always the same as the grand total. So
Say that
I
again.
was a
Paul?
little confused. The total, where it says total municipal portion. Well, like, let's see, for 2023 is 194,
Yeah,
624. 810, I'm sorry. And then when you look at the bottom, it's 190,810. Why is that?
I think that's Lincoln's municipal portion. Woodstock is paying 34.53 for the community building portion split with Woodstock, 361 solid waste portion split with Woodstock.
If I look back at last year's. Sorry, yeah. What is this, number 9?
The 166.
Number 9, I mean. The calculations were, if you look at last year's one, Green, do you have,
I got last year's.
do you have it?
Yep.
So if you look at 2022's,
That number 2, yeah.
number 9, it shows calculations at 181,892, but it shows that total municipal portion at 177,792.
Mhm.
Total municipal portion here is 198,10, but the grand total is 194,810. So you see what I'm saying, that it's different this year than last year. The year prior, it was the same way as last year.
We added in that line item that's property and liability deductible of 4,000.
I saw that.
And we
Okay,
actually,
so the 198,10 matches the top number. And that used to be the only number in that account. We added in the property and liability deductible, but what we're finding is we've been having accidents, vehicle accidents, other things where we had to put out a deductible, and that was in
Yeah.
no budget. And so we started this year putting, okay, we need some in police, we need some in high solid waste, we need some in recreation. And then it was like, well, we're hoping that we're not gonna have an accident in every
Well,
department.
it's
So
like
instead of putting in all these deductibles in the various departments, we just put it in here.
and so
this
that
is
even,
the line.
$1,000 is a deductible for this.
$2,000 is our vehicle deductible. And so we put into.
well, yeah, so we put into, it says full, so it. OJ's partially correct, and there was a mistake. We originally put in 4 because we were thinking every single department, our insurance deductible is $1,000, so we were thinking each
Oh.
department. But then we thought there are departments that we share, right? So then I'm proposing to take that 4,000 and bring it to 2,000 because we split out the departments that we share. So Woodstock could share in some of the costs if that were to happen. So that number, that $4,000 can actually be brought down to 2,000,
Okay,
correct?
and
But you won't know that anyhow. I mean, really, it doesn't much matter. That's just money you're budgeting to cover the deductible.
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah,
It's gonna
still,
be
we
what
still
it is.
carry something like OJ said to build.
Yeah.
yeah, correct.
So the other question I have, Karina, is when I look at the past years, the solid waste portion
Yes, was much higher,
was 4,100 yet, and there was no community building.
correct.
This year, the solid waste portion was like 361 versus like last year it was 4,100.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. So this was something that was brought up at the last budget committee meeting. I think last year we talked about why is Woodstock splitting the solid waste facility, but they're not splitting the insurance portion of the community building. So we went back to Primex and asked them to itemize our bill, essentially tell us exactly what we're paying for each individual building, and this is the numbers that Primex gave us. So we
So this income from Woodstock, right?
correct.
The 34 is the 3453 the total income from Woodstock, or is it gonna be split with Lincoln? So in other words, it's only half.
It's only half,
Okay, and that would be the same with the solid waste portion.
correct. Yeah, total for the solid waste, the total bill for the solid waste with our annual insurance is $361.
Okay. And
Same,
the total
and
bill for the community building is 3450.
3453.
But then we split that with Woodstock, so
We did.
shouldn't that be reflected in here that it's only 50% of that instead of. You know what I mean?
Sure,
I believe that the 361 is the 50%.
I don't believe it is.
Oh, no, it's the whole thing. You're right.
It's the
And
whole
it's
thing.
in that budget and we
Correct.
split that whole budget.
And we split that whole budget, correct.
Sorry.
So that should be changed to,
Well, the revenue, right,
the revenue portion of it should change that.
right, the revenue we're receiving for it is half that amount, correct.
That's what I was asking, yeah. That was one question.
Karina, are you pretty confident that the insurance provider is giving you absolutely solid numbers for next year?
Yes. Yes,
Because what I'm seeing across many corporations and homeowner associations, so forth, is huge increases
Mhm.
in insurance premiums over the last couple of years. We don't seem to be suffering from that here.
no, but I think we have in the past, like I said, we signed in because we have. Had so many years of service or so many years being a member of Primex, we were given this year the opportunity to sign into what they call a CAP program, which. Gives us the maximum not to exceed number. I think last year we were at the 12% or the 9%. I can't really remember. It was either last year or the year before. One was 12 and one was 9. That was our
It used to vary a
increases.
lot.
It used to
Really?
vary a lot. So
Really?
this path assurance program locks us in at that 7%, and I'm confident that will stay there.
That's a nice number.
Are our losses trending downward? I mean,
Uh-oh.
I can't really compare, this is my first full year,
okay.
so I have little to compare it from, because I wasn't involved in the years previously. I'll say in comparison to other communities I've worked for, Lincoln does a pretty good job, so.
Normally losses don't fret, just happen.
They happen, I mean, when
Every
you,
year you get a big hit.
Yeah.
You know,
You know.
the further in the past that year is, and your rate is more likely to be
Well, but the-
stable.
sure,
I mean, the town has that. Risk management group, right, that they do with all the departments.
yeah, Primex, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and we also got, you gotta think,
Oh,
we
I'm
have,
talking about Primex, I was talking about the
You're talking about the risk management committee?
committee, yeah.
Yeah, and
oh,
they
joint loss.
joint loss.
Yeah.
Joint loss
Yeah.
committee, that they work with regards to helping
Absolutely.
manage some of this stuff
Yep,
too,
we
right?
met 5 times this year. We inventoried all the buildings. We made some safety upgrades. It also coincided with the Department of Labor coming in this year and
That was good.
identifying some deficiencies that we had throughout the buildings. But we fared well in that audit as well. So we had some very minor stuff that needed to be taken
Does the
care of.
town still have a schedule of liability or schedule of equipment and buildings and stuff that they
Oh, yeah, we have to
Insurance company.
submit that to the insurance company every year,
every year?
yep.
They used
Annual
to
exposure.
tag everything, I remember that. Everything used to get a tag.
Yeah.
And it was coded. Like that's all the way, yes.
I don't know if it's that thorough anymore, but we definitely, for Primex, it's called our annual exposure update. We gotta give them every single building, the depreciation value, the equipment, the major equipment in it. I don't think we're going as far as, desks and chairs,
No.
but yes, we have to do that for Primex.
I think the other thing that might help too is Primex services school districts, which their exposure and budgets are significantly higher than towns. And I believe they also get involved in some county activities. So it's probably a plus for the town of Lincoln to have Primex because the
The larger pool,
larger pool that Primex is involved in.
yeah, definitely.
It makes sense.
And we have departments that are on the road 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, small fender benders and stuff like that are unfortunately bound to happen.
Further discussion on insurance?
No.
No? Okay, welfare?
20.
So this budget and your expenditure report, you're gonna see is significantly underspent. Jane does a wonderful job of working with resources in the community. We kind of touched base on this and we went over the health
Yeah.
appropriations, working with the Bridge Project, working with other entities, Tri-County CAP, fuel assistance, those things to keep our costs down. I did talk to Jane about potentially reducing it. There are a couple of factors that I think the budget committee needs to know before that decision is made. She is recommending that we stay at that $10,000. A lot of the programs that were funded through ARPA in 2022 were set to expire, right? It was ARPA funding, it was pandemic funding. We were getting this money ahead, the AHEAD program, the fuel systems program. They were supposed to expire in 2022. A lot of those were extended, and the need for the town, we benefited from it because we didn't need to step in and help so many programs. The major one is AHEAD out of Littleton. They have set up some residences in some of the motels along Route 3 where there is a number of people living in those hotel motels that AHEAD is paying for. AHEAD has notified us that the program is finishing. The program is being extinguished in April for adults with no children and in June for families with children. So come April and June of this year, we are gonna have to help all those families relocate. Most likely in the form of a security deposit or something along those lines. So she has some concerns with reducing that budget, knowing that she has at least a dozen families that she could need help relocate.
Do they have to relocate or just we could then pay into where they're already living?
What a head is paying is not something that is feasible for the town to pay. It's astronomical, I'll say. It's, I would say, triple the going rate for like a one-bedroom apartment in town.
The welfare is one of those items, one of those budgets that. You can exceed by law, right?
Absolutely,
Okay.
there's no,
You can budget. If she budgeted, what she budgeted here?
And 10 grand.
And then grant she used 2.
yeah,
So I mean, you know, you could budget 5, and if those families needed it, you can go over that budget as a matter of law. I mean, as a matter.
yeah, I mean, state law,
municipal law,
you have to,
yeah,
right.
you have to do
Right,
that, so.
right.
It's not like some of the other budgets where you
No,
can't do that,
No.
but you can do it with welfare,
correct,
welfare and legal, right?
legal, correct, yes.
Will some of the other agencies that we funded be able to help in this situation?
We hope so.
Assistance. Okay.
Yeah, we hope so. You know, we're in the affordable housing in Lincoln is few and far between. So we're gonna need help from some of these outside agencies because the likelihood that we're going to relocate them within the boundaries of Lincoln is probably slim.
Further discussion? Welfare, okay, as is. Executive budget, number 1.
Number 1. So you're gonna see the first big change is, I reduced the overtime, wages. I brought it down to 30 meetings, not 52. The selectmen were, historically meeting every week. We've now moved to a bi-weekly schedule. So we will not have as many selectmen's meetings, therefore we won't have as much overtime for, the minutes recorder to do so. So we cut that budget. I budgeted for 32 and not exactly 26 because there are additional meetings that we have to have or whatnot. So I did give us a little bit of a buffer. And the elected officials went down by 4% change because there's only one election in 2023 versus 3 in 2022.
That's a big cut in meetings.
Yeah, we're going bi-weekly.
Okay.
Telephone utilities, that stayed the same. We do have a little bit of a buffer if you look at the expenditures in the telephone line. We were notified a few months back that our current phones, the Avaya phone systems are no longer serviceable. The Avaya company is no longer in existence, and we were going to have to transition to new phones at some point in 2023, the actual hardware for the phones. Once they start, there's no immediate need or dire need unless we start having issues with the phones, but the maintenance on them is no longer available or is a limited maintenance plan. So at some point in time, whether it's 23, end of 23, we're gonna have to start potentially purchasing new phones or entering into some sort of lease purchase agreement for the phones.
So if you were gonna look at replacing the whole phone system in the town,
Yeah,
what would that cost you?
it's big bucks. It's like 18,000.
My
So
question is,
what?
couldn't you just do it on capital? Because the
We-
town building has money in it for replacement of things like that.
Sure, I have asked, so we've received two quotes, one from Statewide and one from Mettel. They're both companies that we currently use for the phone systems. One monitors the hardware, one does the hardware kind of maintenance and upgrade for us and a few phone lines, and the other one is the actual phone line provider. Both of their quotes they're pretty close to each other. I've asked them to give us a quote where we are not purchasing the phone outright. I feel like when we purchase in my personal experience, I've done this in another municipality, when you purchase the phones outright, they end up becoming obsolete in a few years, and then they they're yours, and then what do you do with them? Nothing. So I tend to think a lease purchase agreement, it makes more sense for these, where we pay a little, rather than paying 18 grand upfront for 24 brand new phones. We get a monthly bill for $300 to lease the phones, and our phones, our phone bill goes up every month. But we're not spending this huge capital amount outright for the phones. So I've asked them to provide, they gave us a quotes to buy them outright. I've asked them to provide quotes for us to lease the phones over a 3-year term, so we could see what that looks like. And one has returned the quote back, and it ends up being like $1,000 down for just the installation charge for them to come in and switch everything over. And our phone bill is a few $100s more a month. So I'm leaning towards going in that direction, because I just feel like spending 20 grand to buy 24 phones, that in a few years
Well, how long?
we're going to be in the same boat that we're in right now.
These phones have been in here for quite a while,
I
right?
don't believe
The phone
so.
system in here, been here for quite a while.
I think it's fairly old.
Well, I think it's real old.
Like how old? Like
Not
a
as old as I
decade? No, I don't think so, because Jane said that
Uh-huh.
Butch did a phone system rehaul while he was here.
I guess, Gordon, that's not in this budget, right? That's.
No, but some of the expenditures, that's why these expenditures are low, why I want to keep them flat.
Right. But, well, that was my question. So if you're not planning on doing anything with it this year,
We most likely will do it this year, but I'm not saying we're doing it in January. I'd say as the phones start needing maintenance,
okay?
we will then look into replacing the phones.
Right, but that's what, back to my original question was. If there's money already in CIP that could be used for the phone. The phone work, couldn't we take it out of the operational budget? and take it
No,
out of
because
CIP?
There is not.
If we
There's no
go,
equipment line item in the CIP. There's a town building maintenance and repairs.
Right, but that's all part of that.
No, it's
Isn't
not.
it?
That's the phones are equipment.
well, and my thought is,
The front
I'm
door
not
is a-
planning on spending 20 grand on the capital equipment. I'm not planning on spending.
Right.
So if the bill just goes up, that's an operating cost that's in the operating budget,
Right,
not a CIP.
Sure.
that's right.
So the plan is just to nurse the current system along until it's
Until
Can't nurse it
until we
anymore.
can't nurse it anymore. Exactly.
So if I can ask, is what's involved in this? Just, you said 24 phones?
I don't know how the exact number, but it's roughly that number, 25 and change
Is- 'cause,
phones.
like, do you have a switch or something that's involved in that? Because it
It's-
sounds like
we-
$1,000 a phone.
We go to a voice over IP system. The current system that we have is an antiquated kind of phone system. We go to a voice over IP, so they'd be internet phones essentially, not hardwired phones for the most part, which will help us save some money on the costs on the wired end, on the phone connection end.
Because that's really cheap.
Yeah, yeah, the internet phones are much cheaper. So our monthly bill should go down in some sense, but if we're more reliant because we're renting the phones versus buying the phones.
Yeah, when you buy phones.
Right.
Phones themselves, maybe.
But I mean, you're getting a new system.
We're getting a whole new system. It would be an upgraded service,
Yeah.
not just the hardware. Unfortunately,
Phones are cheap,
a-
the system is what you're paying.
it's a package deal, when we upgrade our phones, we're gonna upgrade to the voice over IP system, because it just makes the most sense. But the internet phones,
Should be much cheaper than.
right.
Yeah.
So. When I look. Do we have another code enforcement person? We have two now?
We have Ryan Fairbrother, who is part-time fire, part-time code enforcement. I've also budgeted,
He splits his 50/50 his payroll.
that's how the payroll goes, yeah, 50/50. Most of his overtime ends up in fire, because most of the time that's a fire call that he's going on based on calls, but yes, 50/50 for base wages. And then
Mike,
I did add $8,000, $10,000 to the code enforcement line this year. A lot of the times Ryan goes out, he needs a second pair of hands if they're doing measurements or if they are, doing something along the lines, not all the time, but it comes in handy to have an extra person. We were paying those wages currently out of fire, which is, it's not him going out on a fire call. He was, he's done an on-call service.
you can't public works get a system when he goes up, do something like that? I mean, obviously if they're plowing, they can't. He probably wouldn't go out then anyway, but it just seems,
No, I would just prefer to budget for Mike or whoever that may be that helps Ryan when Ryan needs help, rather than pay Ray Corber to come out and go on these site visits. No, but that's what has happened historically. If there needed assistance on a site visit, Ray Corber would go out and assist, whether it be with Ron or with Ryan. So I think a better use and a better, more cost-effective way to get some of this stuff done is to just have a little bit of money in the code enforcement line for someone else to go out with Ryan other than the town engineer.
and Ryan's. Ryan, his payroll went up more than 6%.
Ryan got a bump when Ron when our fire chief went from full-time to part-time and no longer was doing code enforcement stuff. And Ryan took on all of the permitting, all of the administrative work. Ryan now does all of the permitting for the land use permits and also the land use compliance certificates. That's all done administratively by Ryan Fairbrother. So he took on those administrative tasks, and he also had more responsibility with Ron stepping down or reducing his time. So at that point in time, we gave Ryan Fairbrother an increase in his hourly wage. And that happened in May. I think it's about 6 months of the year, because I think Ron left in May and June.
It was like, 18%. 17.
Continuing down on the budget, you will also see that I do have a pretty hefty surplus in the contracted services. I think I have a question on whether the Highland Games $6,800 was ever paid to the Highland Games. I know that they were invoiced for the special details, and essentially that was supposed to cover part of the special details. But without Jonna being here today, I couldn't confirm whether or not that had been paid out, but I do have a star next to it because, essentially that would take a big chunk, $7,000 out of the surplus. Depending upon what happened with that.
Contract services, so the dues training and conferences.
Yes,
We only spent like $10,000 this year, and
yeah, that's where that 6,800 is coming from. That's where we put it. I don't know why it's in there, but Highland Games is in the dues training. And
Oh,
conferences.
that's what I was looking at. Contracted services.
contracted.
Oh, sorry, no, I apologize. No, it comes from the dues, travels, conferences. So if that were to be paid to the Highland Games, then we have more like a $3,000 surplus rather
Right.
than a $10,000 surplus.
You don't know what it's paid,
No, like I said, that was a question I had for Jonna when she,
but if it has been paid,
then we need to figure out where everything else is coming from. I do know that I was asked before I came on board, I was asked if I would attend the International City and Town Managers Conference that happens once a year. I know Butch had traditionally done that. I was very honest and said, I don't foresee myself doing it in year one, but I would like to do it in year 2 or year 3. I just didn't seem like it wasn't probably feasible in year 1, but I do plan on attending. Next year it's in Austin, Texas, and I have family there. So.
yeehaw.
So that's, $2,500 that didn't get used this year, but that will be intended to be used
So
next year.
between those two, that will make a difference.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah, I mean, that will take up the whole thing essentially. And then the miscellaneous, I don't really know what that was, so we just took that out. And then going on to contracted services, I do have a pretty hefty surplus in that arena as well. Most of that is due to with 2022 being the year directly following the revaluation for our assessed values. We were anticipating having to pay our assessors CNP a lot more for abatements or any sort of pickups that they had that followed. So right now that budget's at 40, but I think we can bring it down to 35 based on what we paid this past year and what we can hope to pay next year. So
Which one is that?
that is appraisal, maintenance, annual pickups, abatements.
So
Last year we had
It's already
40.
at 40 this year, right?
It was at 40. I think we can bring it down to 35 even more. Another $5,000 down.
I know I'm writing this stuff down, but are you gonna supply, can you supply new sheets of all the changes, once with the changes in it?
Yeah.
So when we get to the end.
Oh, yeah, I'm already
Everybody's
updating
looking
you
at the same sheet.
as we go along. I'm doing that, so.
Okay.
Yep. So that could be brought down to 35K. Our vision appraisal software, this is an upgrade to our current assessing software. So these are all our annual maintenance fees for our current assessing software. And then our certified computer services. I know we talked about certified computer at the last meeting and potentially putting that out to bid or looking at other avenues for that.
Do we? The certified computer move the email accounts to .gov domain? Is that, I'm assuming that's something new.
That is something new. That's something that they're pushing all towns and states to, with the .org is not as secure and as safe as the .gov. The .gov is run by the federal system versus the .org, which any nonprofit can
Those
get.
guys don't even know where the top secret documents.
No, I'm not gonna comment on that, but a lot of municipalities moved it to the .gov this year. It's something that CCS is suggesting we do just for broadened security purposes.
Again, I would ask the same question as I asked you earlier, is that there's any, because you're underspent in this budget.
Sure, if anything could be done.
I mean, if you can purchase any of these things or make changes or whatever you could do this year, I would think it would be beneficial to get them done this year and not have to budget them for next year. If you got money left in this year's budget,
Yeah, I
at
mean,
least get them contracted, because if they're contracted, you can take them out of this budget, right? As long as you have a contract.
well, it's January 10th, so we're kind of,
Yeah, but how long can you go up? You go up to.
Well, I mean, we keep our books open till the middle of January, but it's technically to absorb the remaining 2022 expenditures, not to add additional ones in 2023. Just trying to play fair.
Yeah, okay.
But like I said, I do recognize that there is a surplus, but I think the majority of it is coming from the CNP, the assessing contract. Yes.
Just comment on the water and the gas fee.
Sure, so we traditionally have been doing an audit on a year-to-year basis. We've been getting a contract with our auditors, Vashon Fouquet, on a year-to-year basis. This year, I asked them to give us a 3-year quote, so we could better plan for the future. They gave us a quote for in 2023 at that 19.5. They said that they have been absorbing a lot of the costs over the last few years for some of the additional hours spent throughout the year, helping us navigate certain scenarios. They've kind of just been absorbing those costs and have been charging us. They're changing their fee structure, so they will no longer be allowed to do that. So that's where you're gonna see the couple extra grand. But they did give us a quote for the next 3 years, and year over year, the increase was very minimal. It was less than $1,000 each year, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was 900 the first year, or I don't remember if you remember exactly what it was, OJ, but it was minimal over, the big jump was this year. And then it was minimal the following 2 years. I think it was roughly $1,000. So that's why you see that for the audit. And then as far as the GASB 75, so this is something that's required. It needs to be updated every 2 years. So the 750 was just for them. We have a different auditing firm that does that. They specialize in the GASB 75, which is the post-employment, other post-employment benefits. This is a requirement that we are required to have in our audit. It requires an actuary to come in and say, how many employees do you have? What are they being paid? What are their post-employment benefits? It's based on inflation. If you look at our audit in the town report, you'll see it. It's got its own section related to GASB 75. That has to be updated, or it's recommended, or that it be updated every 2 years to reflect accurate salaries, accurate inflation, accurate, everything that kind of falls along with that. So this past year, they just did a generic update where they just kind of did a desktop update, where they looked at inflation, they looked at what we had, and that's what that 750 is for. Next year, they're gonna have to do the full gamut of an audit. They're gonna have to go through everything all over again, so.
Hey, on the surface replacement for the BOS, is $2,000, $2,700, $2,400 for one surface?
$2,400 for one surface.
Which one is that?
That is the first certified computer. It's about,
Oh,
a third, yeah. The BOS, they're actually all scheduled to be replaced this year, but after talking with the BOS, most of them find that their surfaces are running fine. We budgeted for one in the event that, one kicked the bucket essentially.
How old are the ones you had?
5 years, I think. They're 5 years old.
Seems like they're more than that.
Dave seems like a year sometimes, huh?
That's the problem. I know it was before you were here by far.
By
She wasn't here
But
yet.
it wasn't, it was during Butcher's term
That's
here.
what I thought, but I just didn't know when, if you knew when. it
Yeah,
was.
five, 5 years sounds right.
All right. The,
Oh, yep, I have it right in front of me. So the BOS is. Selecting surface. 2017, so it's 5 years.
5 years. Good guess, OJ.
I was just echoing what she said. Back to the 8, I would have gone, yeah, that sounds right.
The engineering, that's for town projects,
Correct.
and can you talk a little bit about the insurance deductible?
Yeah, so
Do
this,
we use this car? I mean, I see it parked up.
oh, no, we use it. So that actually can be reduced to 2,000. The 1,000 was for the deductible, but we moved that to the insurance line. So I just would like a 2K buffer, a $2,000 buffer, because this year,
I'm sorry, which one, engineering or insurance?
insurance.
Insurance
I love it.
deductible,
The insurance deductible can be scratched out, so I'll update that on, and it just says, it should just say town car maintenance.
okay,
Oh,
you can change that to 2,000.
2,000, it is used, it
What?
was.
I
It
see
was
it
out of
parked.
commission for a little while this year, we put, I don't wanna say significant amount of money in, but we've put $5,000 in it this year, I would say, or since I've come on board, or 13 months or so. And no one knew where that money was coming from, so it was kind of a group effort where PD paid for some, fire paid for some, I absorbed for some, but we figure if we're gonna have this car and it's gonna be a town car, right? For all town departments, not just the PD or not just the fire, we should have a line item to take care of that car, to do annual oil changes, to do
Does
inspections,
the town still use
tires.
fuel over at the state farm,
Yes.
gas and fuel?
Gas and fuel, yeah. And you know, we are encouraging employees to use the town car versus pay mileage. So, it does get used, maybe not, I know Jane takes it to get the mail most days, so. Not that we want to see more action than that, but, it goes out
We
for
find that it
training.
saves on the mileage reimbursements. I mean, does it save enough on the mileage reimbursements to pay for itself?
I haven't, again, I'd have to look back historically because I've only been here about a year. I would say that for some of these trainings, I know we've had a few of the dispatchers taking the trainings. We had some of our fire guys who were taking the EMT course over, it was in Woodsville. They were going over 112. They were taking it at that point in time. I do think overall it's beneficial, but I would have to do the calculations to see.
I think that, yeah, I mean, Jim's question is probably pertinent, the fact that most of like public works have their own vehicles that they use whenever we're traveling. Police have, I mean, we have quite a few cruisers, so they would use theirs. It would benefit the town hall, I would think, to have it. Solid waste or what else?
Well,
There
PD, I
wouldn't
mean,
be-
the dispatchers aren't taking cruisers, you
Yeah.
know, the dispatchers would take the
The
town. car.
dispatchers.
Yeah, the
right.
dispatchers.
But the police officers. would
Police
take
officers would most likely take
Yeah.
their, you know, their
That's easy
cruiser.
one.
You could take it to your conference in Texas.
I could, hey, I could.
It's a long ride. I've been there.
Yeah. I would never see that car again.
I think that's gonna go.
Listen, if this becomes more money than it's worth, I will get rid of it. There's no
Yeah.
point in keeping something around that's not beneficial, you know, but I know there was an argument to keep it before I came on board, and so I'm kind of testing the waters a little bit with that one.
Which
But
line,
again, I would like to be able to put tires on it and do oil
Who's the
changes,
last
or
one that
something
said
to
it
push
insurance
down, be able to have the
deductible?
money to do it.
She's
If you use
thinking of
the-
insurance deductible crossing
If
now,
we're not
just being.
Saving money by.
And-
Because everybody-
Agreed. Right. Right.
If we're not saving money, why budget for it when I get rid of it?
I don't,
Probably paying mileage is cheaper than maintaining it.
I don't disagree, Brent. If it's not worth it, then, you know, I would say it's time to get rid of it. It's not an option.
It's mileage right now, 40 cents a mile.
No, 65 cents.
So 5 cents.
yeah,
Yeah,
So it doesn't take long.
they just upped it.
Yeah, but if they're nobody's using it, then. Or
Right.
hardly anybody.
Well, and it needs to
Even
be
if you go to
used
the
to
post office. and
keep it
back,
functioning, you know?
it's better and better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that, you know, it gets used for the post office every day, but that to me is not one of my
No,
concerns or priorities.
Agreed.
But what we are concerned about is like some of these training sessions. When there's multiple people going in one vehicle, there's a real liability issue,
All right,
you know?
I mean, I'm just.
Yeah, I mean, it's a liability issue and whether they take the town or take their own.
Yeah, it's.
Depends on whose insurance is gonna pay
right,
for it.
but rather than
So-
paying 3 people mileage, because we can't force them to all carpool.
Right.
But we can
Right.
force them to take the town car, so. Like I said, if it becomes more money than it's worth, I'm not dedicated to it, so.
So,
are the laptops for the budget committee, is that a dead item now?
it is in the budget.
Yeah.
It is in this budget. I took it out. I did purchase Tracy's laptop out of 22's budget, so that
Right.
money's already been encumbered
When is
And-
that coming in?
soon.
Well, what I see is,
Couldn't be
what I'm
too soon
looking
enough.
at there is, what's the 2115K annual?
I'm looking for that.
Because I think you did you get a Surface for Tracy?
No, I got her a regular
I was
laptop.
gonna say the
Yeah.
Surface thing kind of.
So we can kind of take, I mean, that's up to the budget committee. If you don't foresee that being an item in the
What's that?
future, the surfaces, I mean, we could
I don't want.
take out
No.
any reference to a surface.
Well,
Yeah,
here-
I don't think we
what-
need surfaces.
It's not surfaces, we've gotten past that,
Hmm,
but I don't, if you talk to anybody that's under 50. Working 45 years old or anything like that, They're using a laptop. So then for us down the road here with other people coming in is, I don't think this is an issue that we have to cut completely. So anyway, let me back up. Is, one second, is how are we with the money for this year on the laptops? We had 5,000, we spent 1,500.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, 15 to
Okay.
change, I think it
So
was.
then we spend the rest of it to get 2 more laptops out of this year. Out of 2022.
Again, so we're on a modified accrual basis, so. The auditors aren't necessarily gonna like me putting an order on January 10th that I'm then retroactively applying to 2022.
I mean, I don't think, are you saying actually to spend or just budget for it?
Well, I'm looking at,
He was looking to spend.
see, what I'm trying to get past to a certain point is that laptops are out the window. I'm trying to get past that. All right, so it's one of those is I use the computer as much, if not more than Tracy. So just going, okay, so we have that money budgeted for it, and we had a certain time into January where you can purchase and you can spend the money, that was correct, right?
Yeah, at the December meeting, we chose to purchase Tracy's laptop, so it was
Right.
well within the realm of the 2022 budget.
Right.
Now that we're entering into the second week of January, I just think the auditors are gonna, we can do it, but the auditors are gonna come in and they're gonna go reverse it back, and it's gonna be an expenditure for 23. So,
It is hard, like, to go back.
Okay,
It's difficult to
but
go
as
back
far
and
as
adjust.
23, that's what the selectmen decide to do with the services for the budget committee.
Can I
The
make a
budget committee can
recommendation?
recommend something else.
Gotta make a recommendation that, instead of sitting here next year at this time saying, if you have any monies left over in your budgets, to take a look at some things that we actually do that. You know, instead of just,
You mean, it's like December?
In December,
Oh, we do,
Yeah.
okay, I mean, we don't.
I mean, we look at how much money we've got left over in this whole budget total, and there's a lot, and a laptop or two, or fixing an air conditioning condenser unit or something like that, it seems to be.
I don't disagree, but I also don't want to spend money just because there's money left in the budget.
Exactly.
So, and I'll show you, I have a spreadsheet that
Pay
I'll,
a tax based on what it is anyway. That's what's appropriated,
oh,
so.
I don't disagree, but I also, I mean, like I said, if it makes sense to purchase something at the end of the year. Because it will save money in the next year's budget, absolutely, I'm all for that, but I'm also not just
Right.
in favor of spending money to spend it, because then we have to come to the budget committee and say, well, you have a surplus and you're not gonna get it back, so we're spending money just to spend money. And
Spend.
I do have
And then
we
we,
have a surplus, and I have a spreadsheet here that I will show you after the budget discussions, if Mr. Chairman allows me to, that shows you exactly where our surplus is coming from and what it consists of, and it will help you identify why we have the surplus we do this year.
But that's really for the department heads to decide when it gets
Right.
towards the end of the fiscal year.
and they
Say-
do it,
I got
they
this.
do it.
well, I don't think they,
That's
no,
all it is.
I disagree, I don't think they do it, and the reason I say that is because we end up with a surplus, but she's gonna prove me wrong here, I guess, with a.
I'm not gonna prove you wrong, I'm just gonna show you what the surplus consists of.
See, how that-
Light on it.
and I think you have to understand that before we
Right.
start making decisions like this, yeah.
So much our business anyhow. We want a budget. If they don't spend the budget, they don't get the stuff they needed. That's on them. That's
Well,
on the
what
department
happens
heads.
is the next year the budget goes up, because all of a sudden it's eminent, or, you know, they really needed it and. They didn't think it was in their this year's budget when they could have spent some of it, I think, you know, and I think it's probably a tug between, I'm sure the selectmen look at it and go, we'd like to put some over here for surplus, or we'd like to do this, buy this 2 fire truck out of surplus instead of buying this other stuff, so probably. Their discretion as to how that actually goes, just, I see it differently than that sometimes.
Well, I think you can ask the selectmen, we came in a couple weeks ago and there were certain items that we said. We could budget for them in 23, or we can pay for them now, and they said, pay for them now.
Now,
Yeah.
We chose to do a few specific things.
Right.
Because I agree, I mean, if the money's there in surplus,
You
let's
need
spend
that
it in
thing,
the
yeah,
year
right.
that we can spend it in. it's too late to go back and spend it now.
Right,
Right.
I understand, I'm saying,
But in the big picture. We've gone through this 1,000 times,
wow,
okay, anything that's left over. The selectmen can't make any decisions of how to spend that. We can do two things with it. We can present things to the town to vote on to spend out of it.
town meeting, yeah.
Okay, so we can't do it. We can present it and say, you wanna do this or not? Or we can use it to offset the taxes. And when you balance those things out, no matter which one you do, it has the same effect on the tax rate. If you spend $100,000 out of the surplus fund, okay? Or if you just budget the $100,000 and put $100,000 back against the tax rate, it's.
If you're looking at inflation, a dollar today is not worth what a dollar will be next year either, so.
That's a whole nother meeting.
I just think my tax dollar this year versus
Yeah.
next year is
I was
a whole
just
different thing.
That's
I was just trying to get back to my $1,500 laptop.
Well,
That's what I mean, it's getting ignored out of this, and.
I think we should buy it.
What's that?
He wants one.
Just pop it in the budget here.
Well, then I would request that we do, if you wanna put, if you only want two, then put in $3,000.
Well, you seem to use one quite a bit, so for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you and Tracy, I think
Chairman,
laptops
the
are
chairman,
appropriate.
yeah.
But I think we still have to have this discussion. Do the members need laptops? Because when we talked about it, I think after the meeting, the Woodstock Budget Committee had iPads. They did not have computers.
Right.
Because the real purpose is that enables them to access the budgets and the minutes and all that stuff on, without having to go into their personal computer and any risks there. But we don't have any, as members, we don't have to do the work that you and Tracy have to do. We don't create products
Right.
for this meeting. We access to make decisions. So I don't think as a committee that we need computers. I mean, iPads would do the trick,
And many of you wanted paper documents anyway.
I'm a paper.
so.
May I please request that we get 2,000 in there for one computer? For
Just have it,
2023,
or you actually purchase it.
to purchase it, yes.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Second, okay,
Yep.
discussion, all in favor?
I,
Thank you very much.
You got it.
So how much did we put in there?
To that.
2,000.
Merry Christmas.
All right.
Do we need to budget any money for special software and all the rest of the stuff that comes along with it?
No, because
That-
hers
that was
is,
the total. That
Purchase
was-
price for Tracy's included.
Fast, because you say every time you purchase one, you gotta buy this, buy that.
Yeah, no, that was all inclusive.
right,
Okay. That's all I have.
okay, further on, the executive,
So the reductions that were made in executive were. Changing the insurance, or excuse me, the town car maintenance from 3,000 to 2,000.
Mhm.
Changing the appraisal maintenance from 40,000 to 35,000.
Mhm.
That was it, right?
Yep,
And we had a
Yeah.
2,000.
Adding to the computer.
and
And
added.
we had 2,000 for the laptop.
Thank you.
And then I know we discussed the Highland Games and I'll give you an update on that.
Yeah,
when,
Once
I-
Johnny gets back.
Yeah.
anything further?
So what are we? What are we discussing next week? I don't have.
We are discussing.
Thursday, police, emergency management.
Yep.
Cemetery, patriotic purpose.
Yep,
Police,
Yep. Emergency management.
Yep.
Cemetery. And patriotic purposes.
and patriotic,
You got it.
That's Thursday.
yes.
that's Thursday. Now. Do we have somebody from cemetery that's gonna be
That's
here?
what I was
That's
gonna ask.
be my
Yeah,
question.
Just let me, who is it that I would contact? Cemetery?
Mr. Khan.
Billy,
or-
let's go Billy Kahn.
I think he might be in
Is that, what's the name?
Gavoni?
Boney, yeah.
Peter Gavoni's been the chairman
Okay.
for a while.
Yeah, and I think he's still here. I think,
Billy's gone.
Billy's gone to North
Billy
Carolina.
zoomed in, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah, all right, I'll talk to Peter and see if he can be.
Then
here
there's
Thursday.
Mike on too. I think.
and then next week, we only have one meeting on
Wednesday.
Wednesday, is the joint meeting.
Yep.
That's joint meeting with
Right.
Woodstock.
And so then on the 24th, we have library, fire, personnel administration.
And
special
warrant
warrants.
Is capital reserve? on that
Capital
or no?
reserve and special warrant.
Yes.
They're on the same page.
So, yeah.
And Mike, if I may, can I pass around this expenditure sheet for everyone? So I did take your comments into consideration from the last meeting. And I wanted to identify where our surplus came from, and so I put this spreadsheet together for everybody. Oh, yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome, no worries. Yep. So what you're gonna see is, this is all the top table is the surpluses that are directly related to personnel issues. We had, in the executive, budget, you'll have an $18,000 surplus. That's because our fire chief left or stepped down from his full-time position and just went to straight. And that's where his code enforcement, that's where half of his salary was coming from every year.
So this was for code enforcement, not for fire chief, right? Because fire chief,
Correct.
he was budgeted.
He's
for-
still on the fire for that,
Nice.
yeah.
So
So this is
it's actually-
executive,
This was actually code enforcement and executive, right?
correct. So that's 6 months. Town clerk, tax collector, both of those deputy positions, went vacant this year. That's $16,000. Personnel administration is where you're gonna see our biggest surplus. It's 251,000. That encompasses all the vacant positions we had, their health insurance, their retirement, their payroll taxes, their disability. That is for all the vacancies we've had, that's where you're gonna come out of. So that's where our biggest one is gonna come out of. Our planning department, our town engineer, we reduced our dependency on the town engineer for certain scenarios. That budget in 2023 has been reduced. So that's why we have a $34,000 surplus. Police, they had 2 vacant positions for 12 months out of the year this year. They also had 1 retirement, which resulted in a few months of that position not being filled. They ended up filling it. So that's $169,000 in payroll wages. Water, they had 1 position vacant for 6 months. That's now been filled. That's $27,000. Public Works, their overtime, which we discussed at the last meeting, is $13,000 because of the mild winter we've had. Our legal budget is under by 136. So if you take personnel and legal related items and you add all that up, that equates to $666,000 and change, which is 90% of this year's surplus going forward. The total operating surplus was the 784. That's 8% of the operating budget. If you were looking at a major project, most major projects have a 10% contingency. We are under that 10% contingency. Our non-personnel and legal related surplus is $76,000, which is less than 1% of the total operating budget. So our surplus is because of personnel. It's because of the vacancies we had this year and the costs associated with not having people in those
That
positions.
should tell me if you did it last year with the same personnel, you don't need.
I knew you were gonna say
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, that was.
That's not the way I operate.
Yeah.
That's not the way I operate. I think you should punish people because of the job market, the employment market.
Why do
Those
people
2
say that?
positions, the PD's coming in on Thursday, those 2 positions that are vacant. One of them is filled, the other one is tentatively filled. They should be filled for all of 2023.
It's all constructive criticism here. You make it
You know,
sound, people are punishing you, you know, it's not that way. I mean, you know, I take a look at this town and I see that the town ran pretty good. Didn't see a whole lot of.
You might have not seen it.
yeah, but
but
you
you
have-
spelled
I
it.
know that.
You
I
fully
know.
spelled it.
I don't see people running down the Main Street with guns or anything like that either, you know, so.
Well, I
You
mean,
know,
do you want to see that? No, I mean, again,
No, but his point was we had adequate police X in his place. right?
Mhm.
See that he's trying.
But we don't know it. I don't know if you guys, looking at the overtime, it doesn't look like they're killing him either, so I think that's kind of.
No, and you know, sometimes it's hard to make that decision, you know, how many do you hire, how many you don't hire, what you do when you don't do, I mean. You know, look at the water department, used to be run by one, now there's two. And you actually have three with Nate, you know, so there's all sorts of,
That's the way of the world, Paul, right? I mean, you can have this
I know.
argument, I'm sure people 20 years ago had this argument, and 20 years before that, they had this argument, and 20 years from now, they'll be having that argument.
when we made that water department, it was gonna be, it wasn't gonna have to be manned, it was gonna be manned for a very little bit of time, now we've got.
We're
people-
supplying water for over $1 billion
I hear
worth
you.
of real estate,
Right.
Yeah, I hear you.
and we don't charge a single penny for it.
Yeah,
So not yet,
Yeah,
that's true, that's a very true statement.
Well, of course we do.
We pay for it in our tax.
Yeah, you pay for the tax.
You're only, this whole conversation about between whether it's metered or taxed, you're just talking about how you're billing it.
How
It's
you're
still being billed both ways.
We're absorbing all of the costs in our operation.
And actually,
Correct.
yes.
no,
And then
it's,
just,
it's how you, not how you're paying for it, it's who, it's if you're paying for what you use. That's what that whole discussion is.
And the infrastructure,
It's
for
equity.
figuring out who's using what,
It's.
how much cost does that add? As opposed to the simple way of we're doing it now of just paying for it out of
for
taxes.
the operating.
Then you gotta hire people that read meters and that whole expense.
Wait a minute, you don't know technology,
That's,
no technology, you don't read meters, you just.
Right.
It's all- it's all up to you.
Somebody's gonna charge you for that.
Water meter installation, when I was working in Waterville Valley, they installed water meters in every single one of their properties. Someone's on the back end figuring out that database. That was my job. So it's been
right.
hours trying to figure it. It's
And
not,
if
it
it
doesn't
doesn't work,
work on itself. So.
And then somebody's got to pay. There's more employees, certainly more overhead.
So may I ask, how many in all of this, other than the police department, how many employees was the town short this year?
Well, it varied throughout the year, right? So I would say on average, we were down 4, at least 3 all year long, 4 on occasion.
Wow.
And we're going into 23 down 1 right now. So we're in much better shape.
What position was that? Andy's?
Andy's, correct, a public works position. Right now, we have a PD, a new PD officer who is going to the academy starting in February, so he will be the new certified officer. We have a conditional offer on the table for another police officer, so those 2 positions could be filled for the majority of 23, and we have currently 1 vacant public works.
Must be running out of help.
And then underneath it, just so you know, this is the grant funding that was awarded. This is, you know, the department heads and myself, these are the grants that we were awarded this year, not that we applied for, because we applied for more than this, but this is the money that we were awarded. It's nearly $500,000. So that's your department heads also doing their jobs.
I don't know how you all feel, but I think this is very helpful.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Very helpful.
Very.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Listen, I understand your concerns. I want to make everyone have sound decision making, so.
Great, great, appreciate it. I'll bring something up. We won't fix it now. If it needs to be fixed, we'll do it next meeting. You said that the state requires us to have how much, what percentage balance and
5 to 7.
5 to 17.
it
That's a big
requires 5 to 17? Or I thought we said it requires 5. It recommends,
You can't go any higher than 17.
Right.
Right.
so if it requires between 5 and 17?
Between 5 and 17.
Because that's what the minutes had. And I
Yeah.
wasn't-
Before the state steps in and says,
You're mismanaging.
yeah, says you're mismanaging the funds, correct?
Okay. It's required between 5 and 17.
5 and 7.
Good.
Probably
And we're at
5
11.
Than 17.
The big difference.
That could use towards tax rate reduction.
This year we didn't use any because our tax rate came in at 1 penny over what it was last year.
But for next year.
For next year, it definitely could be used. I mean, we have a balance of like 1.6, so,
1.6, huh?
yeah, 1.6.
I think it was one, yeah.
I have it right here.
Last year, so probably one.
It's $1,681,725.
Buy a single family.
I will say, if you just want some other math thrown at you, I know. You guys love my math. But so on average, I did a 5-year average from 2016 to 2021. What we average, we put towards the tax rate every year, it's 370,259. That is 29 cents on the tax rate. Just so you know. So on a $300,000 home, that's gonna save you $87 a year.
It's good. I mean, if you,
$43 a bit.
if you look at the tax rate. People who are paying the money are the people who are building $1.5 million homes. They're supporting the town. It's
I
tough.
don't just, it's.
Tough
yeah,
for all the
it's a
people who
balancing
have lived here all these years, on fixed incomes or, don't make a whole lot of money to pay that tax rate, but. The majority of it is being paid by the people who are building.
Can we get that in the minutes? Then be sure that's in the minutes. Thank you, Paul.
That's fine.
But that's true.
So you're not fighting for the poor guy, like you said, you're fighting for those millionaires.
Did I give away my secret?
I was always saying he's trying to help. Yeah, so.
No, look, there's still a lot of people who it does affect.
Absolutely.
$87,000.
That's right.
That a local tax and local voter pays. Because OJ gave it last year at town meeting.
I think
Every
7%. Right, isn't it 93% of the tax base?
87% of the tax base is second homeowners,
Right.
multiple property owners. Commercial properties.
Non-voters.
Well, no, some of them.
No, some of those are both.
Some voters.
Some vote.
They have a
Commercial
lot of,
property
you'd be
people.
surprised how many homeowners are
Residents now.
residents.
Residents now.
Yeah.
I can remember Phil Ravings, I mean, the whole story about Loose Lake, Bull
I don't
Lake.
call them a second homeowner if they live here full time.
That's,
Yeah.
Okay,
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, maybe they're only been,
Involve a lot of different.
maybe, right,
With addresses outside of Lincoln,
Right.
right?
properties whose owners live outside of Lincoln, property owners who have multiple properties in this town.
Right.
Yep.
And anything classified as commercial property. Those three things are 87% of our tax base.
So do we know what percentage of people that actually vote in this town? Are, what percentage of the tax rate or the taxes are paid by them?
We
13%.
don't know, there's not a way
It would be full-time.
to blend those two, but a lot of a lot of voters pay no taxes.
How do I become one of those?
Give me one.
Go find one of those hard to find rental units.
Yeah.
and Pay your landlord
That's right,
a
There you
high
go.
rent and
Yeah,
he'll pay
there you go.
property taxes.
right.
There you go.
It's.
But
Yeah,
someone's
okay.
still
Yeah,
paying,
there you go.
Yeah,
someone's still paying the taxes and stuff.
It's just come out of rent, it's not like,
Right, someone's still paying that.
What I'm saying is they vote,
They vote, they don't.
but they don't pay taxes.
well, they
We don't
indirectly,
directly pay
they
taxes.
use the landlord.
Yeah, directly.
I mean, if the landlord's tax bill,
I mean, I get
if the tax.
Yeah.
We understand that, but I'm saying that they don't, it doesn't affect them directly.
Right.
It affects their landlord. Now, they may pay an increase
Yeah, and then your rent goes up.
in taxes.
Rent goes up, that's it.
I think one of the important things to note, because I know we did a study, we've done a study every couple of years, I haven't done it for a couple of years. But Lincoln has one of the lowest tax rates in the whole state. We used to be like number 11, we may be 13 or 14.
No, I think we're
Whoa,
going
whoa,
the other,
Going the other way.
no, we're going down.
One of the lowest municipal tax. rates. You don't wanna start talking school and all the rest of that.
Yeah.
You better
One of the
take-
lowest
you better take
municipal tax
municipal,
rates.
right.
Well, it's the final tax rate that is.
We're all under the same
what our,
umbrella,
is
right.
what our fee is determined by, and that includes the school.
It does.
Yeah, that's operating budget for the town plus the schools. We still have like at $14 or whatever it was, one of the lowest tax rates.
It's $10.50.
Partly that's a
Yeah.
misnomer because the properties are assessed for what,
Mhm.
so that.
Right.
That's true.
Right.
That is fee, but
Yeah,
still,
you're right.
you know, I think it also shows that the town is managed pretty well.
I don't disagree.
Yeah, we're a lot of property, that's why the ratings are there.
Well,
Motion to adjourn?
one of the is 1,500, 1,500 was the population I always heard about. And now we said in this meeting, now 17. Would that extra 200 come in from the pandemic in those 3 years?
I think it did come over.
Is that initial growth? Is
I
that-
believe So, yeah, I asked Kristen to put some statistics together for me for a grant that we were writing this year, and it was like motor vehicle registrations increased by 27%
Yeah. okay.
from 2020 to 2022.
Yeah, so-
Gotta look and see if those people really live in town.
Well, that is true, but I mean, people were here because
Yes.
people fled their, more densely populated areas to come to their second homes.
There's still one registered in Lincoln and the other registered in Massachusetts, so everybody still live in Massachusetts. Yeah, but a lot of them are doing that.
I know.
Okay.
Paul made a
Motion.
I did
motion.
Second?
Not much you can do about
I
it.
did it.
Brent second? Okay, we were having a discussion in there. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of adjourn?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dennis.
Has that ever happened?
Good night, Dennis.
Bye, Dennis.
No,
Thank you.
thank you.